Kia ora and welcome to Under the Checkered Flag. It is Kate, that's me. I'm joined by Kelly and PozzA. There's a lot to talk about this week, and we are going to leave a lot of the rider market news for Moto 2 and Moto 3 that came out this week until next week because we have a very limited time frame. One thing I do want to start us off with is the new trophy. This is for MotoGP. They announced this on Friday along with I've forgotten the name. That's terrible. Basically, a league of Hall of Fame for MotoGP riders who have won more than two world championships, two or more. This new trophy looks pretty similar to the old one. It's a little bit, I don't know how to say it, shinier. It looks a little bit smaller, so I imagine this change was so they could build it a little bit bigger. And yeah, that's just my way of describing it. I will throw a photo up on screen if you are watching the video version. What do you guys think of this new trophy?
Honestly, it's not much of a change. I don't know what most people are expecting, but there's like, oh, why is there no change? What's the point in announcing it? It's not different. I'm like, it is. It's to make sure it doesn't grow into the size of a pillar when everyone's being added to it. It looks nice though. It looks fresh. It looks really clean. So I'm excited to see how that will turn out overall.
As Kelly mentioned, on the old design, the plaques were a lot bigger than they are on the new one. So naturally, trophy grows in size every year. You can only stick with that design for so long before it gets ridiculously tall. So it was going to come eventually. I'm pretty sure I saw something saying that when the tower was being designed, it was only originally supposed to go up to 2024 because of that. So yeah, people saying that oh, it's a Liberty Media thing, they're trying to ruin the sport. Not really. I don't get that. But yeah, I feel like obviously it looks a bit more modern, but yeah, they've also made the plaques a bit smaller, a bit sleeker, I guess. And I don't think it looks particularly bad. I think give it a year or two, people will be used to it and they'll stop complaining about it. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good.
I'm with you both. As soon as it was announced, there was a lot of hate on it. I don't see why. I guess people just like to complain. I agree with both of you. It keeps it nice. It means we can keep this theme and keep adding to it. And it also does look sleeker and more modern. One change that hasn't been announced but is heavily rumored that I personally completely disagree with is the fact that there's a lot of talk that Liberty Media is going to split the paddocks. Now, I can understand why they want to do this. They want to make MotoGP this exclusive little bundle, but it does mean that Moto 2 and Moto 3 would have their own paddocks. It's frustrating to me that we're in this position. I do understand, like I said, why they're going to do it. It would hit some teams really hard. So we're talking the likes of the KTM IO boys. They're going to lose access to, the big KTM facilities. The Red Bull sponsored people would lose access to all the Red Bull facilities. So I don't like that. I think that, these guys are sponsored. They should have access to all of that, no matter what class they're in. That's just my 2 cents. What do you guys think? Do you think we should split the paddocks to, help keep that exclusivity? Or do you think we should stay as we are, one big paddock?
I feel like one big paddock is way more of a vibe. Like you said, some of these people are sponsored. Like, why should we prevent them from having the facilities that they do need and are literally entitled to? I feel like that's kind of just a really rude way of going around things. I don't think it's never really been much of a problem to have one big paddock. It's never really caused any big difficulties, so I don't see why they should change it now. I feel like it's just quite stupid, to be honest, and there's no point in it whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm not particularly a huge fan of the sort of direction that Dorna have been going down in it seems like sort of separating Moto 2 and Moto 3 into their own little corner. Like they've stopped showing the qualifying interviews, which is something that I know like a few people have been complaining about because we do want to hear what the riders have to say, and obviously the lack of like media coverage that they've been getting, that's been something that's been going on for years. I'm not a huge fan of it because I feel like a lot of the time Moto2 and Moto3 have more interesting races and storylines than the Premier Class does. So yeah, not a huge fan. And I know that although I've seen, I think one of the journalists was saying that the teams, they haven't been consulted or like told about any of these decisions that have been made, and they're not particularly happy with it either. So hoping that's something that can change in the future, because if we lose Moto2 and Moto3, it's like the biggest pathway to MotoGP. Pretty much all the riders will tell you that. So that's just my thoughts.
I think the most frustrating thing about what Dorna has been doing with Moto2 and Moto3 is not only have they been like restricting access to the content for them on the MotoGP channels, they haven't done what Formula One has done and, made Formula 2 and Formula 3 channels where people can follow along and, maybe someone only likes Moto 3, maybe someone only likes Moto 2. There's no way for them just to get that content. So, Moto 3, let's talk about it. I did say we'd save the rider market news to next week, but one piece of rider market news in Moto 3 I want to talk about because I am so confused, and that is the fact that Joel Kelso has signed to ride for MLAV Racing in 2026. To me, this came completely out of the blue. I have it on good authority that he is being paid to ride, so a lot of the times the Moto3 riders, they struggle financially. They're putting a lot of their own money in there. But yeah, Joel Kelso to MLAV, what are our thoughts?
Apparently he's paid to ride it, which honestly makes a lot of sense to me. Um, I do have severely strong opinions on MLAV. I feel like for a team that was built to raise British riders into the sport, they aren't doing that very well. They bring in people like Evan Belford and Eddie O'Shea and all these other British riders, but they do not provide a bike that is actually going to push them to sport. They did the same with Scott Ogden. Now Scott Ogden has possibly missed his chance because he was stuck on a bike for so many years that was propelling him absolutely nowhere. And either at this point, either pull the team or improve that bike because they're doing absolutely nothing for it, and it's hurting me. It's hurting everyone else. I don't see the point. And Joel, I don't know why he did that. Obviously, he's getting paid a lot to ride it. But if he can't put that bike anywhere, then it says a lot about the team and a lot less about the riders.
Yeah, from an Australian point of view, I really don't know how to feel about this move. Because obviously I'm happy that he's got a ride for next year. That's the first thing. But I think it's pretty safe to say that the MLAV team's the worst on the grid. I think at the minute I was looking at the teams championship in Moto 3. They had 3 points. Their nearest competitor had somewhere in the 40s. So that's a bit concerning. I know they've not got like the best riders at the minute, which still, yeah, obviously Honda's not very good either, but some of the other Honda teams are still, obviously Leopard's the top one, but some of them are still getting in the points, getting in the top 10 pretty consistently. So if MLAV and Honda don't make a massive step next year, then I don't think this is particularly a great move, like results wise and careers wise for Joel Kelso. I feel like the fact that he's getting paid to ride it, which is actually a pretty abnormal thing in Moto 3, I feel like that probably has a lot to do with it. Um, so yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's a very conflicting move, and that's why I just wanted to talk about it because it was recently announced and very surprising, shall we say. Let's look at the Moto 3 race itself. It was a pretty good one. It was sensational. We had a good group, I think from memory, 6 riders crossed the line within a second of each other. It was either 5 or 6. Just honestly sensational. Last lap, last corner move by Jose Antonio Rueda or Maximo Quiles was phenomenal. It was great. We had people battling from lap 1 all the way to the end of the race. In the end, the podium was Adrian Fernandez in P3, who I honestly thought would be doing a lot better this year, so I am slightly disappointed that we haven't seen him on the podium more, but I am glad he's up there again. Maximo Quiles continues his strong form and is all but guaranteed Rookie of the Year if he keeps this up. And Jose Antonio Rueda took the top spot. Overall, I loved it. What did you two think?
Yeah, watched it a lot later than you two for obvious reasons, so I got a lot of it spoiled to me, but honestly, it was enjoyable, definitely enjoyable to rewatch. The last final lap was was stressful as hell, and the race to the line was extremely tight. Um, Happy that Jose came out on top. He always does. Really, really impressive young fella, and hopefully he will continue this form forever. Maybe. Um, Pretty unfortunate to see both MLAV racers go down, but as I said, MLAV cannot provide a rideable bike. So I feel like they just need to really, 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 really consider their stance in this sport. But who am I to make those decisions? Yeah, really sad for Luca Lunella as well, who was running really, really good. But I want to mention David Munoz. He was, I wouldn't say punted off track. They had a racing incident and he was sent off track by another rider and he plummeted all the way down to 19th, but he made a really strong comeback up to 7th. Just shows how well this fella can can ride a damn bike. So I was just honestly really impressed with that. I wanted to say it.
I just wanted to sort of bring mention to some things that happened further back in the field, mainly to do with Honda. They had 4 riders stop with mechanical issues. 3 of them had to retire as well. Those riders were Abi Adatama for Honda Team Asia, Marcos Ruda wildcarding for MLAV, Eddie O'Shea riding normally for MLAV, and Nicolo Carraro, who was the one that managed to continue and finish the race. So uh, yeah, it's unfortunate to see that sort of reliability from Honda. I feel like it's something we saw last year as well when they brought the 2025 bike in. So hopefully they can find a way to sort of fix that. Hopefully this is sort of a one-time thing. But yeah, aside from that, great move from Jose Antonio Rueda into the final corner. We saw something similar with Marcos Iriarte in the Rookies Cup. So it's good to see that races can still come down to the last corner, sort of across the classes. And yeah, podium for Adrian Fernandez, just coming into the um, flyaway rounds where Leopard have typically sort of thrived. So not surprising to me, really, that he's just sort of hitting form now. Joel Kelso in 4th, good result for the Australian. Top rookie was Valentin Peroni in 6th. Guido Pini was in 9th. Alvaro Carpe in 10th. And Ruche Moodley and Cormac Cannon just missed out on the points in 16th and 17th.
It's quite interesting that so many Hondas did have those technical issues because you do wonder if they're starting to throw parts at the bikes and upgrades. Moto 2 itself though, because this was like one of those old Moto 2 races, much like last week. It was quite boring. If it wasn't for Diogo Moreira, I feel like I'd have nothing to talk about. I love the fact that he's actually out there, overtaking and being aggressive. But that being said, he still finished pretty lonely position because that's what this race felt like, that all the riders were just by themselves doing their own thing. Overall, though, the podium, Danny Holgado in P3, another great performance for the rookie. And I do think we should be talking about Danny Holgado more this year because while we all love David Alonso, Holgado is really doing well at Moto 2. Barry Bautis was in P2, and Celestino Vietti was so dominant this weekend. He was so comfy. Obviously, this basically is home track, and he's probably ridden around it more times than I can count. So, yeah, just a great weekend from him as well. How did you guys find this weekend's Moto 2 race?
It was enjoyable as the other two, obviously, but still, watchable. Um, Unfortunately, I think you guys know why I didn't find it as enjoyable. Collins had a bad weekend. It wasn't his weekend. He was already starting from a low position down at 19th, and then he went off. I didn't even get a replay of that. I don't know what happened to the fella. He just went off because the feed didn't show it. But yeah, pretty devastating to come back from a very long scout event wet with no voice, and then to read that, it wasn't the best feeling. But aside from that, Celestino Vietti has come through with his annual good performance, so we won't see that again until next year if he comes back. But yeah, not a lot to say, just kind of a bit of a parade.
Yeah, it wasn't the best Moto2 race we've seen this year for sure, but there were still some interesting battles. I feel like the main one was kind of between Manuel Gonzalez, Senna Agius, and Diogo Moreira. They sort of went back and forth in the last like 10 laps, which was good to see. And the only other real piece of action was Barry Baltus chasing down Celestino Vietti late on, but Vietti just had enough of a gap in hand. If there was another lap or two, Baltus probably could have been on his rear tire, but it's just how it goes. Vietti was obviously pretty much untouchable. As Kate mentioned, done probably more laps around here than most others on the grid. Um, so yeah, good to see him back. Good to see a Boscoscuro get a race win. It's been a while since that's happened. And aside from that, top rookie Danny Holgado on the podium in third. David Alonso was in eighth, so another good result for him as well. Further down the field, Ivan Altola was in 13th, and he was the last rookie to score points.
Looking at MotoGP, now the sprint was in danger of becoming a snooze fest. I'll start with the podium though, because we had Fabio Di Giannantonio in P3, Alex Marquez in P2, and Marco Bezzecchi, a great result for Aprilia. He took the top spot. It was an alright race. We did have Brad Binder have a mechanical issue, which I'll come to when we're talking about the MotoGP race, because for reasons. Overall, Fabio Quartararo crashing out was pretty rubbish as well. But obviously, the topic that has been everywhere, and you'd have to be living under a rock, probably, or just not online, to be fair. The Marc Marquez crash. Straight after this crash, we cut to the crowd and we see some guys cheering and flipping off Marc Marquez. Honestly, I have to say it's really good that social media has been so, you know, robust in calling these people out, because we should absolutely not be doing that. That should not be happening at all. And yeah, I love the fact that the journalists have just been like, this is, disgusting behavior, because quite frankly it is. It doesn't matter if you're a Rossi fan or not. I wouldn't cheer if Rossi crashed. I wouldn't cheer if anyone crashed, because it's not part of it. Like, yeah, sorry. Went on a little bit of ramble. I'm sure that both of you have strong opinions on that as well. What did you guys think of the sprint?
Overall, very, I would not say aggressive, but quite a crash fest, including Mark himself, to condemn the people who were booing him. At the end of the day, I don't like, you know, I think we all know here that I don't like Frankie Morbidelli, right? I have very strong opinions on him. I feel like he is just not, how would you word it? Not a good rider and not a good person to be on that bike. But if he crashed, I wouldn't be jumping up and flipping him off and shouting and booing at him. I'd be concerned, like a normal human being would be. And why would you be happy that anyone crashed? I would never be happy that anyone crashed. And I feel like if anyone's actually truly, happy and booing and flipping everyone off just because you don't like a person, then you need to look at yourself as a person. But anyway, yeah, unfortunate for Brad Binder, just another bad weekend. Same with Fabio Quartararo, but the V4 has come in and they've been performing a little bit better. So maybe that'll stick, and I hope it will. But Marco Bezzecchi win. I love that. I love Marco Bezzecchi more than I love Marc Marquez, and that's seriously saying something. So positive for me.
Yeah, obviously, fans cheering when a rider goes down isn't something that we really want to see, something we need to be seeing. So on one hand, I sort of think Dorna, the TV director, didn't really need to show that crowd shot. I saw one journalist say maybe they were mistaken, thinking that they were just cheering because Bezecchi took the lead, but yeah, it took about 2 seconds worth of looking to know that they obviously weren't. And the other side of things that I wanted to bring up is, even for the people that say like, oh, it's okay if they're not hurt. We don't know if a rider's hurt until really they get back to the box, maybe even later that day, as we saw with Dran Mir. I think that was on Friday. He had a pretty like stock standard crash, got up straight away, looked fine, and it comes out that he's missing all of Saturday's action because he's got a sore neck. So, and especially because Mark went head first into that barrier, like we don't know if a rider's okay immediately, even if they get straight up. So, just not something that we really need to be seeing fans cheering when someone goes down. But aside from that, yeah, happy for Bezecchi. Good to see him get a win on home soil. Um, and to Gian Antonio getting a podium at his team's home track as well. Good to see those two getting good results for the team.
Now, there was one other new change that came in this weekend in terms of the MotoGP class, and that was we have a new grid ceremony procedure. This came in quite last minute, and riders were notified quite last minute as well. This new grid ceremony has all the riders lining up alongside the dignitaries when the national anthem is being played. Personally, I'm okay with this. There's been a lot of backlash online again. I just think it brings it in line with other sports, and I do think it's a massive show of respect to the hosting country that you stand there, they're not sitting, that you stand and listen to their anthem. What do you guys think? Do you agree with me, or do you think that, as Marc Marquez says, if they keep bringing in new things like this, the riders are going to explode?
I feel like everyone's just being a little bit dramatic over it, to be honest. Like, and in every motorsport you watch, the people stand up to listen to the national anthem, and haters love to hate. Okay, all they do is hate. Me, Marc Marquez, he should have crashed out. Me. I don't like this. Me. The new trophy sucks. Like, do you have anything to do with your life? Like, in the nicest way possible. There's so many other issues in the world. Why are you so concerned about this? It shouldn't be something you're that concerned about. And I like the idea. I like the idea that they're standing up and paying respect to the country that they're riding in. But I don't make big decisions.
The way I feel about it's kind of what I said earlier about the Moto 2 and Moto 3, all the changes that are happening there. I don't think it would have been a massive problem if they'd have been notified like adequately ahead of time. As you guys were saying, literally every international sport you see, even some just national sports, before like a big game, a big race, whatever it is, they line up, have the national anthem. It's just a show of respect. It's pretty basic. And as Kelly was saying, the people that are saying like, "Oh, it's a Liberty Media thing. It's becoming F1." It's again happens in every other sport. Is something that MotoGP was the ones being different in. So yeah, I don't mind it. It's just the fact that I feel like with these changes, they should be notifying them not like the day before the weekend starts. It's something that should be a bit more events than that in advance than that. But yeah, I don't think it's a big deal really.
We're looking at the MotoGP race now, and it was a race of attrition. I feel bad saying this, but it was such an attritional race that Somkiat Chantra got a point, his second point, so I'm very happy for him. This is a really interesting race because every rider got track limits, pretty much. Don't quote me on that because I know some of them didn't, but basically every rider. Everyone had little exclamation marks next to their name in the timing tower. Overall, the podium, Alex Marquez took P3, Marco Bezzecchi took P2, Marc Marquez took P1. And there's great pictures. Marc Marquez's celebration was him holding up his leathers and just, it was brilliant. I strongly recommend you look for that celebration because it's just him saying that he does his talking with the bike. One thing I want to mention is the KTM tech issues persisted. Midway through the race, Pedro Acosta's chain snapped. Now, I have had a friend text me and tell me what the exact issue was, and apparently it's due to a longer swing arm and a low turn on that corner. So I think it was turn 7. So if the ride height device is activated, then the chain becomes, it was either loose or not loose, tight, sorry. I'm forgetting my words today. So every other manufacturer had a guard in place to prevent this. KTM didn't, and that's why they had so many issues this weekend, and that's why Pedro Acosta's chain came off mid-race. So there's a fun fact for you. Enea Bastianini and Maverick Vinales also did not finish this race. So a bit of a disaster weekend for KTM on a whole. What did you guys think of the Grand Prix?
I mistakenly called the sprint the crash fest because I'm a little bit slow this weekend. Sorry, guys. This one was actually the crash fest. Um, Joan Mir didn't finish the first lap. Quite unfortunate. The fella is just not having a good time of it. So I think everyone just needs to take a little prayer. But unfortunately, the crash was also his fault, and that leaves him with 29 DNFs out of 50, or something close to that, which is not a good statistic. Yep, Marc Marquez won after crashing out in the sprint. Who would have guessed that? Very regular occurrence, but Marco Bezzecchi has been on it this weekend. I want to bring attention to that. That man has been rapid, and I'm very happy with that behaviour. Franco Morbidelli somehow managed to unfortunately drag himself up to near the podium, but I suppose I can let it slide because he's Italian. I suppose I should let it slide. I have to. Luca Marini finished seventh again. He seems to like that little area, but I won't judge it because points are points. Somkya Chantra managed to pull a point out of nowhere, but that's because most of the riders didn't finish, and Joan Zarco was about a light year behind. Yeah, F bag. That's really unfortunate. He was I think he was running up in seventh before he crashed out, so he was on for a few points, but definitely not at the level he should have been at. Pedro Costa was brought out of a really good fight for something that wasn't his fault, and Maverick Vinales is just a bit mid. Sorry, I know, kill me. I know. Really, really strong opinion there. And Ayagura is quite unfortunate considering the fact he's just back from injury, but hopefully all of these riders are okay and will be back stronger next time.
Yeah, just a little extra comment on the Joan Zarco crash because I don't believe we brought it up. Simon Patterson came out after the race and said that Tranmere had a front ride height device or front like start device issue off the grid where it didn't disengage braking into turn one, and I believe that would mean braking into turn four. It was also still not engaged. So yeah, just bringing that point up again because on the safety grounds, these things keep happening where they're not disengaging and causing crashes. So I do think we need to sort of reopen those discussions about getting rid of them just on safety grounds. But aside from that, I'd also like to go back to a point that Kelly made in Moto 2 about the TV direction, because there were like a fair few crashes in this race, and I'm from memory, the only ones we actually saw replays of were Pecco Bagnaglia's and Enea Bastianini's. Just personally, I'm always sort of under the impression that I'd like to know what happens to some of these riders if they go down, have like problems. So that's something I just sort of like to be improved in the next few races. Fermin Aldeguer, top rookie in P6, and some Chandra. He's the only other rookie that scored points. So good job for them.
One thing I will just mention is I saw Simon Patterson actually tweet about those crashes and TV direction. While I totally agree, I think TV direction does need to seriously up its game because we didn't see things like the jump starts this weekend. We had two riders jump the start and we just didn't see it. That's the kind of thing that, us fans want to see. They did say it was because there were some technical issues, which as an avid video pass user, I was having a horrible time this weekend. My stream kept crashing and I got like the render process is failed or something like that as an error all weekend. So it was a particularly bad weekend, but it's also a huge pattern of them not replaying some of the stuff that we actually want to see. And Poz has just put in the chat, we shouldn't be hearing about this via a single journalist. This should be communicated via MotoGP's official channels so that we know why these issues are occurring. But it's not only this weekend that we haven't been seeing these crashes. And yeah, I definitely want to see a rider get up and walk away if we can see them get up and walk away. That is us for this week. Like I said, we will be that is us for this week. Like I said, we will be back next week with Moto 3 and Moto 2 rider market news, especially more news on that MLAV market. But we've also got MT helmets line up, all of the good stuff. We're also going to be covering the news that Moto E has been suspended. I say suspended, let's say it for what it is, and it's pretty much been cancelled. We'll do a championship standing update and we'll look at the testing and dive a little bit deeper into the topic that Kelly brought up, and that is the Yamaha V4 that debuted this weekend. Join us next week, but for now, ka kite.